The mistake did not arrive with a thunderclap. It did not come with a speech, a parade, or a declaration of war. It came quietly inside Adolf Hitler's mind, at the exact moment he began to believe he was infallible. Europe was on its knees. Enemies were collapsing faster than anyone thought possible. And the world, especially the United States, watched in disbelief. His biggest mistake was not a single battle or one bad day. It was a pattern of arrogance that would slowly, relentlessly destroy everything he built. In 1939, Hitler was still viewed by many as a reckless gambler. Germany was powerful, but not invincible. The memory of World War I still haunted Europe, and few believed another global war could be fought so soon. Yet, when German forces stormed into Poland, the speed and coordination shocked the world. Tanks moved faster than infantry. Aircraft crushed communication lines. Entire armies were surrounded before they understood what was happening. Within weeks, Poland was defeated. That victory changed Hitler. It confirmed what he already wanted to believe, that he possessed a unique genius for war. When Denmark and Norway fell, then the Netherlands and Belgium, his confidence grew into obsession. But it was the fall of France that truly altered his thinking. France, with its massive army and defensive fortifications, collapsed in just 6 weeks. Paris fell without a fight. The French government surrendered. British forces escaped only narrowly at Dunkirk. 2 Americans reading newspapers in 1940, it looked like the world was tilting toward darkness. Hitler appeared unstoppable. He was no longer just a dictator. He seemed like a force of nature. And Hitler believed it too. From that moment on, he stopped listening. German generals who had studied war their entire lives warned him about logistics, supply lines, and long-term strategy. Hitler brushed them aside. He believed wars were won by willpower, speed, and fear. If Germany struck hard enough and fast enough, enemies would collapse. It had worked every time so far. Why would it stop now? By mid-1940, only Britain remained standing against Nazi Germany. The Luftwaffe bombed London and other cities, night after night. Civilians died, buildings burned. Yet Britain refused to surrender. The Royal Air Force fought back with determination, and Germany failed to gain air superiority. For the first time, Hitler encountered a problem he could not solve quickly. Instead of adapting, he grew impatient. Hitler became convinced that Britain was holding out because it expected help from the United States or from the Soviet Union. If one of those potential allies were removed, Britain would have no choice but to negotiate. The United States was still officially neutral, but the Soviet Union stood directly in Hitler's path to total dominance. For Hitler, the Soviet Union was more than a strategic concern. It was ideological, racial, and personal. He despised communism. He viewed Slavic people as inferior. He believed Germany's future lay in the East, where vast lands and resources awaited conquest. Long before the war began, he had written about destroying the Soviet Union. Now, with Western Europe under his control, he believed the moment had arrived. His generals warned him again. Germany was already fighting a major war. The Soviet Union was enormous. Its population was massive. Its climate was brutal. A war in the East would not be short. But Hitler dismissed every warning. He believed the Red Army was weak, poorly led, and rotten from within. One hard blow, he thought, and it would collapse. This belief was the core of his biggest mistake. On June 22, 1941, German forces launched Operation Barbarossa. Nearly 4 million Axis troops crossed into Soviet territory. It was the largest invasion in human history. Tanks thundered forward. Aircraft dominated the skies. Soviet units were encircled and destroyed in staggering numbers. Entire armies vanished. Once again, it looked like Hitler was right. American observers were stunned. Reports described endless columns of prisoners, burning cities, and unstoppable German advances. Hitler confidently predicted victory within months. He believed Moscow would fall before winter. He believed the Soviet Union would collapse like France. The Soviet Union did not collapse. It absorbed the blow and fought back with a ferocity Hitler never anticipated. Soviet soldiers continued fighting even when surrounded. Civilians sabotaged German supply lines. Entire factories were dismantled and moved thousands of miles east, out of reach of German bombers. The Soviet state mobilized everything: men, children, industry, and ideology for survival. As German forces advanced, the distances became their enemy. Roads were poor. Railways used different gauges. Fuel ran short. Ammunition lagged behind the front lines. Trucks broke down. Horses died. The German army, designed for fast campaigns, was now trapped in a war of endurance. Then the weather turned. Autumn rains transformed roads into seas of mud. Tanks sank. Vehicles stalled. Soldiers marched through freezing sludge. Still, Hitler refused to slow the advance. He split his forces, diverting troops south toward Ukraine instead of focusing on Moscow. He believed capturing resources was more important than seizing the Soviet capital. That decision cost him precious time. When German forces finally resumed their push toward Moscow, winter arrived with devastating force. Temperatures dropped far below freezing. German soldiers lacked winter clothing. Their weapons jammed. Their vehicles froze. Frostbite claimed tens of thousands. Meanwhile, Soviet troops, fresh, reinforced and accustomed to the climate counterattacked. For the first time, the German army was driven back. The failure to take Moscow shattered the illusion of invincibility. It proved that Hitler's strategy had limits. Yet, instead of learning from this failure, Hitler tightened his grip on command. He blamed generals for setbacks. He took direct control of operations. Retreats were forbidden. Flexibility disappeared. His belief in absolute control would lead to catastrophe. In 1942, Hitler launched another massive offensive, this time toward the oil fields of the Caucasus. Germany desperately needed fuel. Without oil, the war could not continue. Along the way stood the city of Stalingrad. Its name carried symbolic weight. Capturing it would humiliate Stalin and prove German dominance. Hitler ordered the city taken at all costs. What followed was hell on earth. Stalingrad became a slaughterhouse. Buildings were reduced to rubble. Soldiers fought hand to hand in ruins. Snipers hunted from shattered walls. The city changed hands, street, floor by floor. Casualties mounted into the hundreds of thousands. As winter closed in, Soviet forces launched a massive counteroffensive. German troops were encircled. The Sixth Army was trapped. Generals begged Hitler to allow a breakout while it was still possible. Hitler refused. He promised resupply by air. The Luftwaffe could not deliver enough food, fuel, or ammunition. The soldiers starved. By February 1943, the remnants of the Sixth Army surrendered. Over 90,000 German soldiers were taken prisoner. Most would never return home. Stalingrad was the deadliest battle in history and the moment the war truly turned. From that point on, Germany was losing a war of attrition it could never win. The Soviet Union went on the offensive, pushing westward with overwhelming force. German losses mounted. Entire divisions were destroyed. Meanwhile, the United States had entered the war. American industry transformed into a war machine. Factories produced planes, tanks, ships, and weapons in numbers that dwarfed Germany's output. Hitler now faced the nightmare he had tried to avoid, a global war against enemies with greater resources, greater manpower, and growing coordination. Still, he refused to adapt. He placed faith in miracle weapons that arrived too late. He ordered cities to be defended to the last man. He dismissed reality in favor of ideology. In 1944, Allied forces landed in Normandy. Germany's defenses, weakened by years of fighting in the East, struggled to respond. Hitler hesitated, misjudged, and delayed critical decisions. As American and British forces advanced from the West and Soviet armies crushed resistance from the East, Germany collapsed inward. Cities burned. Civilians suffered. The empire Hitler promised was reduced to rubble. By 1945, Hitler was a prisoner of his own delusions. He hid in a bunker beneath Berlin, issuing orders to armies that no longer existed. The man who once dominated Europe now commanded nothing but ruins. His biggest mistake was not just invading the Soviet Union. It was believing that reality would bend to his will. That ideology could replace logistics. That fear could defeat endurance. He underestimated his enemies, ignored advice, and refused to change. For American audiences, Hitler's failure stands as a warning etched into history. Power without humility breeds disaster. Confidence without restraint leads to ruin. The war was not won by arrogance, but by endurance, cooperation, and adaptability. Hitler gambled everything on a vision detached from reality. And when reality pushed back, it crushed him. The war ended not with triumph, but with silence, as the world moved forward and left his shattered legacy behind. His biggest mistake was believing he was unstoppable. History proved otherwise.